Before I start, may I ask you a question? You all look really great, by the way. You don't just look put together, but you look really present. But are all of you here today? Did you bring every version of yourself into this space today? I ask because I know what it's like to walk into a room and only bring the versions of myself that I think are acceptable. To only bring the versions that I believe others will be comfortable with. I've done it so often, I can name the versions of myself that sometimes I leave in the car. Sometimes I leave my candid voice. Her name is Sherry. She's a no-nonsense girl from Memphis who lives rent-free in my head. She does not play games. I leave her in the car like, girl, let me check the room first because I'm not really sure that they're ready for you today. Sometimes I leave my confident voice. I'll keep her on standby. I'll text her if it feels like a space where her confidence won't be misunderstood. Boundaries me, in the car, backseat, buckled in, frustrated, because she knows that without her, I'll end up saying yes when I really mean no. Analytical me, in the car, running a full risk analysis, trying not to be too much. And introvert me, well, she didn't want to come in anyway. The only version of me that was consistently welcomed in the room was the polished, agreeable, easy to work with version of me. She's really great, but she's also exhausted. It took me years to realize what I was doing, that I was not walking into spaces as my whole self, that I was walking in pieces. And to be honest with you, I had no idea that I was doing it. Because before we walk into a room, we make a quiet decision, which parts of ourselves will we bring in and which parts will we leave behind. So we soften our tone, we hold back our ideas, we go along to get along. For years, I lived that very way. And I got really good at being the kind of leader that others would be comfortable with. I learned how to read the room. I knew how to soften my tone. I knew how to word ideas in such a way that others would be comfortable. And honestly, it worked. It worked so well that I was promoted into a senior leadership role. My name was on the door. My business cards were on the desk. All the markers of success that I believed mattered. But it didn't take me long to realize something startling. Only parts of me had been promoted. The polished parts, the agreeable parts, the parts that fit neatly in the room. But the parts of me with edge, empathy, and instinct were still in the car. That's the part of leadership that we don't really talk about. You get the role, but not always the freedom to be yourself in it. Outside, I was winning, but inside, I was shrinking. And here's what I learned about shrinking. We don't shrink because we're weak. We shrink because we were trained to perform over being present. For years, leadership taught us to fake it until we make it. But we don't really talk about the cost of faking it. Because when you spend years not showing up as yourself and pretending, you forget how to be. You forget that asking questions and making mistakes is still pretty powerful. You lose trust in your real voice, the one that's not yet polished, but true. And somewhere along the way, we stop leading from a point of presence and we start performing for approval. I've spent more than 25 years in human resources, and during that time, I've watched brilliant, capable, experienced women walk into a room with only a fraction of themselves, holding back their ideas, adjusting their tone, and typically not even for themselves. They were doing it for everyone else in the room. We didn't just learn how to lead, we learned how to shrink. Raise your hand if you've ever felt like you had to live by these unspoken rules. Be confident, but not too confident. Speak up, but don't make anyone in the room feel uncomfortable. We learned that safety was better than, that compliance was the safest. And playing it safe will get you through the day, but the cost of showing up in pieces has its cost. Sometimes it looks like a little burnout, a little fatigue, but the quiet erosion of self adds up to something bigger. That moment came for me the dawn of turning 50. My kids were grown, my role as caregiver to my mom had shifted, and for the first time in years, I had space. But instead of feeling clarity, I felt something more of confusion because I realized that I didn't recognize the woman that I had become. That I had spent years being easy, agreeable, downplaying my instincts for others, that I needed to be reintroduced to myself. And I could hear Sherry saying, "It took you long enough." The old standard of leadership rewarded the performance. It rewarded polish over presence, agreement over honesty, fitting in over showing up. And for a while, it worked, but it's no longer enough. Because when leaders reward performance over presence, people don't feel safe to be themselves. They feel pressure to be perfect. It's time for a new standard of leadership. Whole, worthy, wise. Whole embraces the fullness of who we are and refuses to leave any parts of ourselves behind. Worthy reminds us that we already belong. We don't have to audition. And wise, well, that's the voice, the Sherry in all of us that reminds us we can trust our voice. We can say what we mean, and we don't have to downplay ourselves to fit in the room. Whole, worthy, wise. This is the new standard of leadership. So the next time you walk into a space, ask yourself the same questions that I ask myself. Did I bring all of myself into the room, or did I leave some important parts behind again? Because when all of you walks into a room, you don't just take up space, you change the room, you set a new tone, and that's what the world needs now. Leaders who refuse to leave themselves behind. Thank you.